he can get the picture. He always asked about her though. Currently, like he's always like, "Oh, how's your sister?" But she doesn't want anything to do with him.
So what you're hoping for in time is that, see if I'm putting this correctly, that he take responsibility for what he did and how it had an impact on you?
I truly believe that he will never see eye to eye with either of us. It's kind of just like, it is what it is, and we are here now. And I mean, there was times where I didn't talk to him for months, which was very hard for me, and I ended up giving in and wanting to be in contact with my father. But yeah.
Well, hopefully in time, you don't know. I mean, people do change, but I think they have to want to change.
Yeah.
When you agree. Yeah. So hopefully that'll come along. Now I had spoken to one of the young men that I interviewed about the school to prison pipeline, and you brought it up as well. Tell us a little bit about why you mentioned that.
So the reason why I mentioned the school to prison pipeline is because when I was 13, I was arrested and taken from school into the whole booking system, fingerprints, mugshots, interrogation. And at that moment, I didn't fully understand the school to prison pipeline. I didn't even know it existed up until I started going to college and going to school for criminal justice and learning the system and how messed up the system really is for low-income students and students of color. So, yeah.
Now, tell us what happened, if you're able to or willing to tell us how you got stuck in the school to prison pipeline.
So I waited about 2 months for my court case to, figure out what was going to happen to me. The court had made a deal with me because it was my first charge. But I explained myself to them. But either way, I had to take the deal of, how we have 3 strikes. I had to take a deal of them to take away 2 strikes away from me and leaving me with 1. I thought that was a great deal, not to serve any time. That's amazing.
Right.
But as I got older, as how I'm saying it, I realized they didn't give me any counseling, any, help for anger management, none of that. They just threw me out back, and it took me up until I got into high school and I met Pops. That's when I started to really get help, and I still am getting help. But
that's great.
But it's just very interesting how the system just threw me out there without any help. So it was kind of like it feels like a setup to me now.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about the topic of the school to prison pipeline? Do you have any thoughts yourself?
Of course. I think the school to prison pipeline should not even exist in schools. There should be more counseling. I get very emotional and very aggravated whenever I see police officers in schools because, they treat, especially in low-income areas, there's just, I feel like it's a setup for students in that. So the school to prison pipeline to me should not even exist. It's just terrible how the system works.
Well, what do you think could be done if you say it shouldn't exist? What can be done to stop it?
The school system needs to be funding more counseling for students, especially in low-income low-income areas. There's so much trauma that goes into students in this area. Mm-hmm. So for the school to allow police officers to take us away from the education system into the prison system is it's just unbelievable. So I think the system should require more counseling for students. So I think that's the only way we can really help students.
All right. I'm doing a lot of research these days on restorative justice, and that is a fascinating topic, and it is being used in many, many cities across the country, and particularly in schools, to get in the way of that school to prison pipeline. So if there's a student that has done something that is very much against the rules and unacceptable, instead of police getting involved, what happens is they are referred to a restorative justice organization. And what happens is the student has a chance to sit down with the person that they have harmed, whatever that might be. If it's destruction of property or it is something they did to a person, and sit across from them and try to find a way to make amends. Isn't that better than taking them to juvenile detention?
Yeah, I completely agree that there should be more communication with the people involved instead of bringing the system involved.
Yeah, and instead of law enforcement, it doesn't have to be. Yeah, and sometimes there is something called a circle, where you sit in a circle with the people that you have harmed, and your family can be there as well, and you try to work it out to make things right. And sometimes law enforcement people are involved in this process. And there's been tremendous, tremendous success. And it's also done with adults to keep them out of prison. So, but what you're saying from your point of view is that it begins when you're young. And your brush with the law was, you were 13. Is that how old you said you were?
Yeah, 13.
13. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So you were fortunate to sidestep, anything really serious. But imagine if you weren't able to do that and they put you in a juvenile detention facility. Imagine where you would be. So yeah, you were lucky. Now I wanted to talk about where we have just a few minutes left. You're attending California State at Sacramento now, is that right? And in the fall you'll be a senior?
Yes.
Right. And what are your long-term goals in terms of how you plan to use your education?
As of right now, my first approach was to become a probation officer, because I saw how the system worked. But now I want to have more power under my belt for my community. So I want to become a lawyer. So I'm currently now preparing all of my LSAT prep since I'm graduating next year. So it's time. I'm ready. There are no breaks for me. I'm going to keep pushing and show my community that there is a way out.
That's fantastic. Now, if there are young people listening, I certainly hope so, and they don't have a club like POPS in their school, where can they find support?
You can find support. You can reach out to us. You can reach out for our website at popsclubs.org. You can also contact me at Katherine with a K at popsclub.org. You can just contact us and we can figure it out. We can be pen pals. If you don't have internet, we can do that, or contact through each other. Now that we have a pandemic, the pros and cons of using technology, you can connect with everybody through Zoom.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's a great message to get across, because there aren't clubs like POPs everywhere. They're few and far between. But because of Zoom and things like that, if they can go on, so it'd be the website, right? popsclubs.org.
Yes.
That's right. All right. That's wonderful. What a great message. And certainly I hope that in time, POPs will expand. I know Amy Friedman is trying to do that. How far out has she been able to reach? I know she's in other states other than California, right?
Yes. So we are in Los Angeles. We are in the Bronx. And we are, I believe, we're in Pennsylvania, I believe, as well.
I think that's right. But I wish that list were much longer.
Yes.
Because it's certainly needed. Well, thank you so very, very much, Katherine, for your time today and for your openness in sharing your story. And I certainly hope that whoever is listening will have gained some insights from you. And that was our purpose in focusing on 4 young people that have dealt with this in their lives. And each of you, as I said earlier, have done it differently. So I'm very, very glad that you were with us today. And I hope we've been able to raise awareness of this issue. So thank you, everyone, for listening today. Thank you, Katherine, for joining us. And please email me at pursuing.justice5@gmail.com. If you have any thoughts or questions, I'd be glad to answer you. And we'll see you next time on Pursuing Justice.